Advice on Death and Dying, a talk given by Geshe Dhonam in Wellington, New Zealand in 2025. When someone is ill and close to death, things that will help them to have a peaceful and happy mind at the time of death are very important from a Buddhist perspective. It helps that person at death in the intermediate stage that follows and in their future lives. So, for example, when they are people we know, or one's parents, reminding them of what they accomplished well in their lifetime, praising things they did well, bringing up that happy mind. Even if in their lifetime they engaged in harmful actions and accumulated negative karma, if at death time you can keep them with a happy and peaceful mind, it actually helps those negative karmas not to ripen, and any virtuous karma they might have to influence those rebirths, helping them to take a good rebirth. Having a peaceful mind depends most importantly on the person who is helping. Whoever is helping at death time, depending on how they are with the person who's dying, if they are kind of gruff with the person who's dying or not, will affect the person's state of mind. So how one helps the person is most important. Sometimes when people have a very heavy illness and because of this are close to death, they get angry with people helping them. At that time it's important for the helpers to be patient with the person and help them as well as they can. In terms of the person helping, you accumulate a very powerful positive karma. If you look at that from a karmic action and result point of view, the result is that the person has created a cause to receive help as they need it at the time of their own death. From one's own perspective, if you are close to death and you are making preparation for your death, in terms of Buddhism, this relates to the 5 powers, a mind training tradition, which we will recap here in brief. 1. The essence of the first task is to do actions that help one's mind to be not attached. The term given to this power is the white seed. Whatever wealth and possessions one has, one gives away so that one is not grasping at possessions. One gives these to children or whoever one wishes to give them to, so that one's mind is free of that kind of attachment. Here there is a tradition of writing up a will. Even in a monastery, some monks write a will and leave it so at the time of their death there are no issues about what is happening. And if one is a practitioner, one purifies any negative karma using 4 opponent powers. If there is any disharmony with the family, one would do one's best to apologize and settle any past dispute. The purpose of these actions is that so one's mind is not disturbed and one is not unhappy. Second, the seed of intention. Close to death, one generates the intention not to be separated from one's practice. In Buddhism, this is often bodhicitta, or the spirit of enlightenment. Or one can phrase it in terms of intention both at death and the intermediate stage, that one will not be separated from the thought to benefit others, and the intention for one's mind not to be driven by afflictive emotion or manifest afflictive emotion in one's mind. Third, the power of prayer or aspiration. This is very similar, that both at death time and the intermediate stage one's mind is not affected by afflictive emotion or separated from bodhicitta, the spirit of enlightenment, and good heart. That in future lives one directs aspiration as to where one wishes to take rebirth, whether in the pure realms or in another human rebirth. One's prayers reflect one's aspirations. Fourth, the power of regret or eradication. As this applies at death time, the power of regret means to take care that afflictive emotions such as pride, anger, and so forth does not arise in one's mind. Fifth, the power of familiarity. This means that at death time, one is seeking to be familiar with the practices one has done, such as bodhicitta, the spirit of enlightenment, and accomplishing altruistic intention, etc. In this way, proceeding from one's familiarity with the words of the daily practices one has been doing, such as the refuge prayer and the 8 verses of mind training, one will be able to carry on with these at the time of death. The power of familiarity does not simply refer to words of prayers, it refers to all aspects of practices. But if one is able to recall the words, one will also recall the meaning. By reflecting on the process of death, it helps us prepare. If someone dies through an accident, the inner signs of death pass very quickly. Also, in the Western world, medications and injections may decrease the patient's awareness of the stages of death. Having a gradual process and awareness of the stages is good. After the person stops breathing, it is best to keep their physical body undisturbed until their death is complete and consciousness departs from the body. There are 9 doors or exits through which the consciousness can leave the body, but the best is the top of the head. If the body has to be moved in the hours after apparent death, one can touch it on the crown of the head or place a relic or holy substance there that will act as a condition for the consciousness to depart from that door. Once someone has died, their subtle mind stays on for about 3 days, or longer in some cases from the Buddhist perspective, until the onset of the intermediate stage. During that time, the mind is clear or empty. Then, as the mind enters the intermediate stage, it passes through stages back to the gross conceptual mind of the intermediate stage, and in this state attempts to meet the conditions of rebirth. If it hasn't achieved this within 7 days, it undergoes an intermediate stage death and begins another rebirth within the intermediate stage. This can happen up to 7 times, and for this reason we do practices for an intermediate stage being for a total of 49 days. If possible, daily, but if not, then weekly, starting on the 6th day after the breathing stopped, recognizing this as a time of greatest change. While the being is in the intermediate stage, there are many practices we can do to give them strength. Prayers, mantra and puja, such as medicine Buddha. Intermediate stage beings do not take food, instead depending on smell to sustain themselves. Thus there is a particular practice that involves offering smells, for example, by putting butter or tsampa onto a fire, and dedicating those smells to all beings in the intermediate state. What can we do to prepare for our own death? We can write down what we want to happen and give this information to a family member or someone who will be with us. Some things we should probably think of. First, as I approach death, I may want someone to be contacted to read prayers for me and or say prayers for me, such as one's teacher. I would like people to avoid distress around me and to help me maintain a happy and peaceful mind. Second, when I have died, remember that the time of cessation of breathing, death according to Western medicine, comes before the consciousness leaves the body. You could ask for your body to be left untouched for as long as possible, if possible up to 3 days. If it becomes necessary to touch or move your body within that time, you could ask that people ensure that the consciousness leaves the body first by touching the crown of the head. This completes a brief instruction on the 5 powers of the mind training tradition at death time given by Geshe Dhonam in 2025 in Wellington, translated and read by Celia Smith.